If you haven't finished watching Stranger Things 2, turn back now, you can definitely expect spoilers ahead. The second season of Stranger Things wrapped about as neatly as you could hope for. Hawkins, Indiana is once again safe from the threat of the Upside Down, and Mike and Eleven finally got that dance. Yeah, we're still hurting inside for Bob.
And splash.
The rest of the cast made it through the season with nothing worse than a broken nose and a few bruised egos, but those last few episodes came and went like a lightning strike. So let's take a moment to slow it down and look at some of the finer points of what happened at the end of Stranger Things 2. Looming Shadow. Let's start by talking about the interdimensional elephant in the room, the Shadow Monster. The final frames of the last episode essentially act as a promise for Season 3, reminding us that even though the immediate threat from the Shadow Monster has been stopped, he's still out there in the Upside Down, looming over Hawkins. It wasn't quite the cliffhanger we got in the first season, with a freshly rescued Will still tormented by visions and coughing slugs into the sink, but it proves that the Mind Flayer isn't quite finished with the residents of Hawkins. As showrunner Ross Duffer explained it, they've shut the door on the Mind Flayer, but not only is it still there in the Upside Down, it's very much aware of the kids, and particularly Eleven. It had not encountered her and her powers until that final episode. Now it knows that she's out there. So that, strange thing is contained, but it's far from defeated. And if he found a way into our world once, chances are he'll be able to do it again, gate or no gate, as we saw several times in Season 1, such as when the Demogorgon broke through the wall of the school. The membrane between the worlds isn't particularly strong where these things are concerned. Closing the gate. Thanks to Eleven, the gate between Hawkins and the Upside Down is definitively closed. With the gate closed, all of the Shadow Monster's influence over our world is apparently cut off as well. We see the Demodogs go limp and drop down the tunnel, and the vines in the tunnel shrivel up. That doesn't necessarily mean the Shadow Monster can't find a way back in, but it's a good start. Power Surge. Over the course of 2 seasons, we've seen Eleven's power grow steadily, and it's also apparent that she's much more comfortable with the humdrum everyday acts of telekinesis. She doesn't get a nosebleed anymore with every little door she slams shut, for example, but closing the gate clearly pushed Eleven to her limits, and revealed some of the true power of her abilities, like that whole floating thing. What's unclear is whether Eleven is channeling her rage or exercising it in that moment. We know that she's focused on some of the darkest moments from her past, and earlier in the season, Callie tried to get her to build her anger as the source of her power.
I want you to find something from your life, something that angers you. Now channel it.
Is that what she's doing when she fights back the Shadow Monster? Or is she releasing all that rage once and for all? Broken Hive Mind. Whatever the Shadow Monster is, it controls everything around it through a hive mind, from the Demodogs to the vines spreading out beneath Hawkins. It's a pretty scary setup, as we see near the end of the season. At a moment's notice, the Shadow Monster can send an army of killer Demodogs anywhere in Hawkins, but we're also led to believe that it doesn't have perfect control over its minions either. When Dustin runs into his pet Demodog, Dart, in the tunnels, Dart lets the kids pass, showing that it can break the Shadow Monster's control over it if it wants to. That's an important detail that may very well come into play in the 3rd season. Hopefully, the kids will have plenty of candy bars handy. Cooking the virus. While Hopper and Eleven head to the Hawkins lab to shut the gate, Joyce, Jonathan, and Nancy go to Hopper's cabin with a comatose Will and turn up the heat on the thing living inside him. Literally. By using all those heaters, Joyce, Jonathan, and Nancy are trying to sweat the virus out of Will like a fever, more or less.
We need to burn it out of him.
It gets pretty brutal, but they're also saving Will's life. If that thing was still inside Will when Eleven shut the gate, there's a good chance Will would have died along with the rest of the Shadow Monster's hive mind. Sure, Hopper was waiting for Jonathan's signal to prevent exactly that, but would he have waited forever? Tunnel distraction. Of course, the rest of the kids aren't idle during the climax. Instead of waiting at the buyer's house as ordered, they head out to the pumpkin patch to distract the Shadow Monster while Eleven and Hopper work their way toward the gate in Hawkins' lab. Their plan? Just set a bunch of stuff on fire and hope the Shadow Monster sends all the Demodogs their way. Yeah, not exactly the best plan in the world, but it works. Maybe even better than they expected. The timing could have been a total coincidence, we'll grant that, but the moment they set the tunnels on fire just happens to be the same moment the Shadow Monster finally leaves Will. The truth is out. Sort of. During the epilogue, 1 month after the events of the climax, we see a string of government trucks leaving a now locked Hawkins lab, while a news anchor voiceover explains that the government admitted to killing Barbara from season 1. So Jonathan and Nancy's plan worked. They got the truth about Hawkins' lab out to the public. And also, like they planned, it wasn't the whole truth, not by a long shot. Instead of announcing that Barbara was killed by a monster that came through an interdimensional rift at the lab, the news claims that she was accidentally poisoned by an experimental chemical asphyxiant. Because as crazy conspiracy man Murray Borman explained in Chapter 5, sometimes you have to water down the truth to make people believe it.
Just like this drink here. We make it more tolerable.
The upshot is the same, however. By all appearances, Hawkins' lab is closed for good. Finally, the citizens of Hawkins get to go about their lives without the government spying on everything they do. Thanks for watching. Click the looper icon to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Plus, check out all this cool stuff we know you'll love too.